Hi, I am Abhishek Prabhu from Kochi. I am now studying in class 9. Here I am with a travelogue of an unforgettable experience of my maiden trekking to Tirumala Venkatachalapati temple in Andhra Pradesh, India. It was a great surprise for me when Ramesh Appappa on 6th January 2013 casually asked me to prepare for the Tirupati Tirumala trekking. At first I could not believe it and thought it as one of his practical jokes. But when Vasantannu also joined the discussions and gave a few more suggestions for the preparation, I knew what I heard was true, and my excitement spilled all over. When Ammumma hinted about it at least a month before, I thought it as one of her ways to make me stick to my studies and routines. But once the news came from Ramesh Appappa and Vasantannu, I knew for sure that it was true. It was always my desire to visit the temple of Venkatachalapati at Tirumala. My last visit was when I was just a toddler and could not remember much of what I saw then. As a child, innumerable times I might have heard the story of Venkatachalapati from Ammumma and parents. The Harikatha rendered by Sant Achyutas in his unimitable heavenly voice on Venkata Kalyanam, played in the evenings in our temple's public address system on every first Thursday of the month, has left a lasting impression on me. Our community has always been emotionally attached to Lord Venkatachalapati, considering him as a Grama Devata. Whichever places our people got settled down, constructing a temple dedicated to the Lord has always been the first priority. Our community even possesses the exact replica of the Lord in his temple at Kochi. It is believed to have been worshipped by King Narasimha Raya of Vijayanagara dynasty of Hampi, Karnataka. The destruction of the temple there by the Muslims made the priest to deposit the idol in the temple tank, from where it was later recovered by Vijayendra Swami and brought to Kochi and installed there in the year 1599. The wonderful stories surrounding the Lord have always fascinated me right from the childhood. I was told that Lord's appearance in Tirumala was mentioned in about 12 different Puranas, especially in Varaha and Bhavishya Puranas. Thus, hearing that I was also going to be part of a group visiting Tirumala temple at Tirupati was a great surprise for me. I considered it nothing less than the grace of the Lord. Thereafter, it was all days of excitement till I boarded the train from Ernakulam North on 18th January 2013 evening. My parents and sister Aishwarya had also accompanied me to the railway station. Before we arrived, Ramesh Appappa, Vasantannu and Chandumam were there to board the Katpadi bound train. We soon occupied our reserved seat and the journey began at 7:20 p.m. Amid funny talks and laughter, we had our food, only to hit the beds and sleep nicely till we reached Katpadi station in the early hours of the 19th January. From thereafter, a prolonged wait of nearly an hour, we boarded a bus to reach Tirupati at 8:30 a.m. The town Tirupati is one of the most ancient and spectacular places of pilgrimage in India. It is situated in the Chittoor district in Andhra Pradesh. The town owes its existence to the sacred temple of Lord Sri Venkateshwara, situated on the Tirumala hill adjoining it. With a history that dates back to over 12 centuries, the temple is the jewel in the crown of ancient places of worship in southern India. There was another great surprise waiting for me when we checked into Vishnu Nivasam guest house opposite to the railway station, where we had booked a double room for the morning ablutions. Even as we pressed the calling bell, Nathu Mantu opened the door. It was another surprise for me. Nath Mantu from Mysore, along with his colleague Nagesh Uncle from Chennai, had already checked in at around 6:30 am, and there we were, a group of 6, ready for the trek to the holy Tirumala temple. Vishnu Nivasam is one of the many temple trust maintained guest houses in Tirupati and Tirumala. It has huge dormitories to provide facilities free of cost to the pilgrims. I could not believe when I saw the cleanliness of the premises. It can easily put to shame most of the star-rated hotels in the cities that I have come across. We quickly had our ablutions and handed over the luggage at the counter that could be collected at the top at Tirumala. This was a huge relief as we need not carry it all along the trekking. We also had our breakfast of hot idlis at IRCTC maintained Govindam food court in the ground floor of the guest house. Coming out of the hotel, we waited for the bus, but quickly changed the plan and decided to go by a taxi. Getting into the taxi, we reached Alipiri by around 11:30 and began our trekking to Tirumala. The Tirumala hill is 3,200 feet above sea level and is about 10.33 square miles in area. It comprises 7 peaks representing 7 hoods of Adisesha, thus earning the name Seshachalam. The 7 peaks are called Seshadri, Neeladri, Garudadri, Anjanadri, Vrishabhadri, Narayanadri and Venkatadri. The sacred temple of Sri Venkatesha is located on the 7th peak Venkatadri. Alipiri has been the place from where pilgrims start their trekking to the holy shrine at Tirumala. The route is around 9 kilometers long, paved with stone steps which in most of the places is full of steep up and downs. I was told that the total number of steps were 3,550, which is roughly around 9 kilometers by walk. Ramesh Appappa advised me to keep chanting Venkataramana Govinda to make the climb smooth. In my excitement, I don't know how many times I forgot to do it, and with so much talk around me, it was easier to do it. But though quite exhausting, I did not feel tired, especially with so much glucose powder taken in at regular frequencies. With so many children, much smaller in age, climbing along with me, I did not find it difficult to carry on the trekking. To my great surprise, I found that Chandumam, the senior most in our group, was far ahead of us. It was with great amazement that I watched the pilgrim consisting of all age groups trekking along with so much piety and devotion. I noticed that a large number of them have their head shaven off in fulfillment of wishes and boons by the Lord.
कौन आशीर्वाद देगा सत्यान मालगोड़ा आशीर्वाद जाऊंगा
By around 12:30 pm, We were there at Galigopuram, a prominent landmark 2 kilometers from Alipiri. We had our tea and snacks and rested for a few minutes. Nagesh uncle informed that most of the difficult part of the trekking was over and the remaining was more or less plain walk or climb down. That brought cheers in all of us. But that did not last long. Soon there was a problem with Ramesh Appappa, who pulled up the leg calf muscles and was in great pain. He soon opted out of the trekking and decided to go down to Tirupati and come up by bus and wait for us at CRO at Tirumala. It was so sad that he could not complete the trekking, but with others all in good spirit, we soon continued our trekking. The path beyond the towering Anjaneya Swami idol was more or less plain road where downhill buses and vehicle also ply by the side till we reached the Mokkali Mitta Padam and Gopuram. And there, like the climax of the modern films, we again had another steep climb to finish off the trekking in a grand style. There I saw people not trekking but kneeling on their way upwards. It is said that when Saint Ramanuja visited here, he walked up the hill on his knees to avoid stepping on Seshanaga. I was told that during the monsoon, the path becomes so slippery and the only way to reach the top is kneeling. I could also feel some pain on my calf muscles during this lag, yet I held on my nerves to finally reach the top of the hill by around 3:30 p.m. Collecting our luggage, we proceeded to CRO to get the accommodation, and there we had the first hurdle from the employees of TTD. The person in the counter refused to provide accommodation as we did not reach the top within the prescribed timing of 1:30 to 2:30 p.m. After much coaxing by Ramesh Appappa and later by Vasantanu in two separate queues, we were allotted two double rooms in different locations, Sudarshana and Anjanadri cottages. With tired bodies and minds, there was not much to talk about the conditions of the room and we had no option but to occupy them. After having hand, face and leg wash, we soon proceeded to the darshan queue. There are two queues available for the public for darshan of the deity. One is a free Sarva Darshan line, which has a number of good sized auditorium with marble steps to sit on. When the auditorium next to yours empties, you move to the next one and the gates are locked behind you. Depending on the number of pilgrims, the time taken to have darshan varies. We have booked under Sudarshanam, where the cost of the ticket is ₹50. But here one need to report at the appointed time so that the darshan is ensured within the appointed time. Unfortunately, we were late to report by more than 2 hours and therefore could not avail the opportunity. But surprisingly, that day the queue was not that long and we thought that we could have darshan within the next 2 hours. But we were proved wrong by the crowd management officials of TTD who ensured that we had our darshan only by 8:30 p.m. The way they managed the darshan was clear that they wanted to give an impression to the public of full crowd at the temple all time. If only a system of CCTV was installed in all places showing the live happening in the main entrance of the temple, those made to wait endlessly for no reason could see the game played by the TTD officials to give a false picture of huge rush of devotees when there were actually not many. Thus, after waiting in the cramped and zigzag queues and crowded box-type waiting rooms For long hours, we slowly inched towards the queue over the flyover. Once on it, the movement was much faster, maybe because of the crowds from 300 rupees ticket queue also merged there, creating a surge from behind. Once we go down from the flyover, there was a turn towards left, and from there we got the first glimpse of the front portion of the temple, flag post, etc. With another surge from behind, there we were suddenly in front of the main door to the temple, where another queue joins that of us, creating a further rush towards inside. The women, children, elderly and the handicapped were the worst sufferers, with none from the TDD to control the crowd. Standing there, one get a distant view of the deity standing directly beneath a gilt dome called the Ananda Nilaya Divya Vimana. This exquisitely wrought deity called the Mulaberam is believed to be self-manifested, as no human being is known to have installed it in the shrine. Thus we were in front of the idol of Tirumala Venkatachalapati by around 8:30 p.m. But barely could I utter my prayers and wishes, I was pushed to the left side by one of the sentries, who seems to have perfected a technique of sweeping the devotees like the cricket players playing sweep shots at spin bowlers. Helpless as I was, we came out and sat in a corner to complete our prayers to the Lord, who is supposed to be all-knowing. Opening the eyes, I was asked by Ramesh Appappa to see a new ritual being started there by the devotees, who by bowing down kept their heads on the foundation of the temple. Some of the devotees from Aravindo Ashram during one of his visit to the temple might have initiated it, only to be picked up by others in search of quicker realization of newer materialistic boons and wishes. Perhaps this is how most of the rituals get started in the temples, I felt. Proceeding further, we went near the hundi to offer our donations. I was told that the money offered by the devotees will be used to pay back the loan of 1 crore 14 lakhs gold coins from Kubera by the Lord for his wedding with Padmavati. When I was told about this story, I wondered how much of the loan must have been paid back so far by the temple authorities out of the nearly rupees 500 crores received as donation every year. Surely the price of gold would not have been that costly as it was now. Proceeding further, we collected the free darshan prasad of a small laddu and the paid prasad of 2 laddus per pilgrim. Later, leisurely, we had our supper by 9:30 p.m. only to hit the beds by around 10:30 p.m. The next day when I woke up, it was already 6:30 a.m. and all others were ready and waiting for me. I quickly had my ablutions and went for a walk with them around the place. The first thing that strikes one is the cleanliness of the place. I wondered how nice it would have been if only we could keep our other temples and premises so clean like Tirumala and its surroundings. Undoubtedly, Tirumala and the temple there are pride of Hinduism. To my great surprise, I noticed that the devotees also contributed to the cleanliness by ensuring the waste was deposited only in the right places and the free toilets were made use without any exception. The cleanliness of the toilets also brought great happiness for me.
Govinda, Sutta Samskrita Govinda.
But I was reminded that things were not like this in the earlier times till the TTD authorities backed by a popular CM and his political party decided to address the issue headlong. Once the decision was taken, it took only a few months to remove all the buildings and structures that marred the beauty of the place. Soon the place was converted into a beautiful place befitting the stature of the Lord who is residing there in the form of an idol. Later we had hot coffee from a small shop. The boy who prepared the coffee was of my age and should have been in a school like me, but the poverty at home might have forced him to work there. I felt confused about the grace of God that was supposed to be impartial. These thoughts were foremost in my mind as we proceeded towards Narayanadri by taxi, where there is supposed to be the footprint of Lord Venkateswara. The place was amidst some of the most beautiful locations on Tirumala, from where you get a panoramic view of the entire temple and its surroundings.
How it is up? The highest point which is the reason they made this.
But surprisingly, I noticed that the forests were not natural but artificially created by the TTD. I wondered about the conditions of the temple and the surroundings in the earlier times. I spoke to Nagesh uncle, who has been a regular visitor to the temple for such a long time.
Tirupati, right from my birth, we used to walk from the Alipuri, and that was a very enjoyable experience. One was the Alipuri route, then one people used to come through Chandragiri. There is a place called Chandragiri, now it is called Srivari Mettu, where it is 2 kilometers less than the traditional route. And then after having darshan, we used to go to Papavinasham to see the waterfalls and we have bath there by walk. Water source only is there, so we used to go to walk. We have walked Papavinasham. From there only TTD gets water now to this Tirumala.
No, what happened to now there is
The
no water?
Papavinasham water, the catchment area has become less.
Why?
Rains are not there. A lot of
What about that forest?
Deep forest has been cut now in the name of development because of the natural thing. Rainfall also is less, so water problems are order of the day for the TTD problems.
The spiritual journey has destroyed the ecosystem of the area.
Not only the spiritual journey, people don't say, it is the management, TTD who has done this, constructing so many buildings, making new roads, lot of new things has been made to systematically bring down the ecosystem. Trekking Tirumala means coming through a natural forest. Now there sheds have been built, all that has been done, lot of modifications have done, which has really brought down the tediousness, but there is no spiritual, nobody chants Govinda's name, nobody takes the name of God. They come with all the bag and baggages, with all the fruits and whatever they want. Now you can see everything has been developed, but that spiritualness has come down to a lot of, now walking Tirumala there is no charm now, because you can see a lot of people coming like a picnic trip or a trekking trip.
Undoubtedly, as the TTD increases the facilities for pilgrims to attract more people, it knowingly or unknowingly results in destruction of the ecosystem in the area. How the nature is going to hit back is anybody's guess now. Later we had our breakfast and started our return journey to Tirupati, this time preferring the bus. The driver was at his best when he drove through the innumerable hairpins providing a breathtaking view of the 7 hills surrounding Tirumala. Finally, we reached the railway station by 12 o'clock to board a train moving towards Renigunda, and from there another train going to Chennai to board the Ernakulam bound train by 8:30 pm. We were back in Ernakulam by 6:30 am on 21st January 2013. While returning, I was reflecting on the pilgrimage. Tirupati, undoubtedly the most ancient and spectacular place of pilgrimage, is the crowning jewel of Hindu places of worship in the world. After spending around 60 hours, including the time spent for travel, trekking and standing in the queue, I got only 3 to 4 seconds for the darshan of the deity. That was a huge disappointment, raising some question in my mind. From childhood, I was taught that God is all-pervading and all-knowing. If that being the case, can't God hear our prayers from anywhere? Do we need to go to places only to have a glimpse of the deity before being pushed around by the milling crowd? Surprisingly, I found that most of the devotees are unconcerned about these issues. They seem to have only one thing foremost in their minds, that of thanksgiving for the boons bestowed and wishes for the new material gains to be provided in future.